part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Welcome back, everybody, to Podcast 616, the official podcast of Earth 616. I'm your host, Damon Royster, trying to vary my voice once again. If you look at your calendar, you can tell it's October, which means we're still talking about Blade this month. The spookiest Marvel movie I could think of. So, coming at you, it's second week of October, so of course we're talking about Blade 2, a.k.a. Guillermo Del Toro, the roof off the building. I love this movie. So we're talking about Blade 2, and here to join me to talk about Blade 2 are two Blade 2 experts, or at least the two people who, when I sent an email out, were the first ones to say, give me Blade 2. And I gave it to them. My first guest, brand new to the podcast, never been here before. I don't know if he's going to have a good time. I sure hope so. He's a lovely human being. He is a comedian, performer, and garbage man about town. You know him, you love him. It's Winston Carter.
Hey,
What's up, Winston?
howdy. How's it going? Was that a walking out kind of hey enough? There we go.
Thank you for being here, Winston.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm great.
You good?
I'm great.
Okay. Well, if Winston's not great, we have another guest. Returning to your ears, Deadpool? It was Deadpool.
Yeah, Deadpool.
Fresh from Deadpool 1. They live again, comedian, performer, also on a sketch team called Redacted with Winston. Please welcome to your ears, Shelby Quinn.
Hey. I did notably less finger guns.
And I just realized I did finger guns when I introduced you, and suddenly this is the Finger Gun Podcast, which is...
people are liking it. People are talking about it.
Damn, the people have spoken. Shelby, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, welcome back. Just a little temperature check, Shelby, from Deadpool to Blade. What do you think is better?
I mean, I think objectively Blade 2 is a better movie.
Yes.
Yeah. And also, I'm also a sucker for Guillermo Del Toro. Like, he's one of my all-time favorite directors. So I was stoked to do this because it was just like, I haven't revisited this in a long time. And it was just like so fresh and fun.
Same. I love it. Okay, we're gonna everything you just said, we're gonna get into. Okay, so we're at Blade 2. This is such an interesting it's such an interesting sequel when you look at Blade 1. Did either one of you watch Blade 1 before this one?
Yeah.
I mean, like in years ago, so technically before Blade, but not as part of this. Yeah.
Oh, totally. But I think even you would I'm trying not to ask you a leading question. Whatever, I'm not a journalist. Wouldn't you agree that that they're very different? Blade 1 and Blade 2, it's tonally a different kind of adventure.
Yeah.
Shelby Quinn, if you could sum up Blade 1 in sum up what the genre is in a sentence, what would you describe Blade 1 as?
I mean, Blade 1 is like much more campy than Blade 2 in some ways.
You mean with the shower sprinklers of blood?
Yeah. And like the action is not as like Matrixy necessarily. Like there's a lot more like scenic shots and like tracking shots throughout Blade 2. So the visual language is also just so different how they shoot the action sequences. And this one is also just like shockingly more violent.
Yeah, especially what are we calling these new the Reapers?
The Reapers.
Yeah.
The chin bite.
Beautiful. So cool.
Oh. Well, going over to Winston Carter. Okay, so that's Blade 1, but Winston Carter, how can you sum up the genre feel of Blade 2?
It's like much more fantastic. It's got this more like surreal, like fairy tale quality to it, is kind of how I would say. Like in the same way like that, like all Guillermo del Toro movies have this like very fantastical element to them. Like it's like, how do I put it? It's, you're looking at sets the whole time, if that makes sense, but it doesn't bother you because it just is the tone of the film. There's no like water coolers in a Guillermo del Toro movie. There's everyone like, that's how I feel.
Yeah, when everything's a set, it doesn't feel like a set.
Yeah, it's like it's like this macabre borderline gothic kind of like, not gothic, but it has that same like I've forgot every word in the vocabulary of English.
Yeah,
Well,
it's more
perfect,
like a
perfect time for a
horror.
podcast.
There we go. Horror movie. There we go.
Yes.
Horror.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's the word I was looking for. Horror.
Very much horror. And I think because there is this like science experiment biology angle, we get a little bit more it feels more like a creature feature
Yeah.
than, because I feel like the first one relied more on like blood and like
Mhm.
blood imagery. I feel like there's barely any blood in this movie, but there's lots of flesh and like gnawing
gross
on
things.
like limbs. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like pus. Like
Mhm.
so much pus.
So much pus. So much pus. All right. Well, let's get into the pustulness of this movie. We open with cats. Subway. We're in a subway. Where are we? Somewhere. It's giving me
In the
Europe.
Czech
Somewhere in Europe.
Republic.
Mhm.
Better check yourself. So don't laugh at that. Don't laugh at me. Don't forgive me for that. Why did I write tears to laughter or tears to laughs? Something happened that was tearful and then funny. I don't know. But we're in this weird, what's happening? It's, you know what? Shelby, tell me what's happening in this
Okay,
first scene.
so
It's a
you're
blood
at
donor?
a blood donation bank in the Czech Republic for humans to donate blood to vampires.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Nomak, who is kind of like a patient zero throughout this movie, is sitting and waiting in line. Remarkably, has both him and Nyssa have straight up American accents, but Damascus, or what's his name? Is it Damascus?
Damascus.
Yeah, has a European accent, and this seems to mostly take place in Eastern Europe. And even the donation lady has like a vaguely British accent, but yeah, it is Czech Republic, and he is next in line, and they notice that he has something kind of off about his blood. And before they could even get to Domesquinos, there we go. Before they even get to take Nomak's blood, he attacks them, the vampires, clamps down on them. His face expands, kind of like the Predator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesomely is the adjective I use. His face expands awesomely. It's the best.
It's oh, Winston, explain to me, since we're going to be talking about these vampires this whole podcast, just so off the top, explain to me how the mouth works and the little apparatuses that it comes with.
I think it's very similar to the way a snake's jaw works, right? Where it unhinges in the middle, like it separates down. Like if you draw a line straight from like the nose down, but starting at the top of the bottom lip, and then down all the way to the neck, and then it spreads open, and then there's like these two additional little claw things on it, right? And then there's a tongue, like kind of sucker thing as well. And it shoots out, and then they can like eat like a whole, they're like trying to like engorge on a whole person. It's great. It's the best. It's truly disgusting and painful to watch.
Very painful to watch. Also, have either one of you read the book? I'm so sorry, I'm going to go off topic. Have you read the book? What is it called? The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires?
Nope, never read a book. Never. Nope.
I love that book. Grady Hendrix is one of my favorite authors.
It's so good. And I believe the vampire in that, he didn't have the split jaw thing, but he had the little suction thing, or like they described something black was like coming out of the vampire's mouth. And when watching this, I was like, oh, I bet this is what that author meant. You know?
Yeah, I think probably because like that's also, it's like the two kind of fangs on the side are what inject the venom to like paralyze. And then those suction things are what actually like consumes the blood, it seems like.
And if you were like, man, I wish Guillermo Del Toro would do a close-up of these creatures' mouths so I could truly understand how they feed, don't worry, he did.
Yep. You're gonna get it.
This man is like, no. Everyone has to see this.
Oh yeah.
So okay, we start with that. And so we establish Nomak as like our big bad. So we think, oh, this movie has so many twists. But we're like, okay, Nomak's the bad guy. And he's hunting vampires? Our enemies? What? Okay, so we get immediately after that, for the credits, not even the full credits, we just get a full like recap, a literal recap that you would see on any CW superhero show. Like, my name's Oliver Queen. And Blade just literally recaps Blade 1 for you. So if you missed it, you not only get caught up on his origin story, but also the retcon of all retcons, Whistler. Shelby Quinn, how do you feel about this Whistler retcon? I forgot how bad this was, or like how, I don't know, maybe not bad, but how easy it felt. Do you know what I'm talking about?
It's very convenient, and it kind of just sets up the very last bit of the movie, kind of, because it's like you need him to be sort of on Blade's side and the hero in order to like make the arc of this movie work.
Mhm.
But it is incredibly Deus Ex Machina, like fully at play to make, just one plot point of this movie actually make sense.
Yeah. Because like in watching Blade 1, I was, that scene happened where Whistler was like, look, walk away, you son of a bitch, get away from me. And then you hear the gunshot. And I was like, wait, isn't he in all the movies? And I looked up and he is. And then this part, I had forgotten that like he basically, was it that he didn't shoot himself? He just like kind of shot the wall or something. He couldn't do it.
It's like fully unexplained, I feel like. They flash back to the movie and they just flash back to the literal scene of Blade. There's no like addendum to it whatsoever to like explain like, did he not shoot it? Did he like somehow
the gun just misfires?
Yeah, right.
It's like
his hands are too bloody and slips out of his hand.
He drops it. Yeah.
And they don't explain how Blade knows where to find him in this movie.
No. Also, he uses, maybe this is falling apart as I'm talking about it. He literally said, I'm hunting him. But when he finds him, he's like in a little container.
Yeah.
Like I thought he was going to be like a fully like feeding vampire out in the world, but like the vampires just kind of took him captive.
Can I weigh in?
Please. It's my least favorite part of the movie, so please.
Here's what I wanted. Here's what I think they did wrong that they could have done right to fix this. Blade turns into a vampire. Blade turns him back out of a vampire. And then at the end of this one, he's turned back in. Like, I want him to every movie end a vampire and every beginning of next movie have to get turned back into a human. I think just make that a cycle for the whole series.
Hey, I love it. I mean, this feels like a trend of this era of movie because this like reminds me of Dewey from the Scream movies, who like always gets stabbed in every Scream movie. So I guess Whistler is just our Dewey. I don't know. Is there anything else to say before we get into Skud?
I think it's Skud time.
There's an audio sting for that, right? You guys have like a Skud time.
Yeah, Michael, can we get our Skud? Our Skud theme. Skud. Okay, so Skud, played by Norman Reedus. This was crazy. Like, it dawned on me when The Walking Dead start. I used to say, "Oh, that's that guy from Blade 2," but now I'm like, "Oh, that's the guy from The Walking Dead." I forgot that this is. I think the best way I know him is Blade 2. Shelby Quinn, Michael did some research on you, and you were a roommate with Skud for a while. Can you talk to me about what that was like living with Skud?
Yeah, I mean, definitely very creative type, strong but silent. Well, not so silent, always has like a little witty quip here and there. Yeah, also not great about doing his laundry, kind of stinky.
I wouldn't expect anything less.
Yeah, he really lets it pile up, and then there's flies around.
I mean, well, when you get the roommate application, you see the name is Skud, first name. You got to be wary.
But he comes with a pimp mobile.
Did he say that in the movie? He has a pimp mobile?
That's how he refers to the mystery machine van that they.
No. Norman Reedus, I have to say, this is the most acting I've seen him do ever. I've never seen this man act more than he does in Blade 2. I'm not saying it's great. Winston is doing a
That's my Norman
impression. Reedus. Just kind of he looks right now like he just woke up from a nap and he's not where he fell asleep. And that's kind of the vibe of Norman Reedus.
He feels like a touring musician who's never left the road. Is how I feel about him. Like every night is till 4 a.m. and then he wakes up at noon and then does it all over again.
Even worse, I feel like he's the roadie.
Oh yeah, he's a eternal roadie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And I'll tell you both right now because you haven't heard my Blade One podcast, but I'll say this: I don't like Whistler. I hate Skud. Sorry, sorry.
Wait. You don't like
I'm not a
Whistler?
I'm not a
Whistler's the
Whistler
best
fan.
part of the movie.
Okay.
What?
Whistler's the
I'm
best
shook.
part of this
I am
movie.
shook. Whistler is my
Wow.
favorite character in this universe.
Is it a W? Because you're Winston.
Yeah, it's because
Winston Whistler.
I only like characters that have W. If there's a Bill that I like, I go, well, his real name's William, and then I like continue watching the movie. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, no, I think Whistler's great. I literally wrote down Chris Christopherson should be in every movie.
I mean, I would challenge you, and I would say Ron Perlman is the best part of this movie.
Yeah, I
but-
fully agree.
Okay,
That's just me?
that's number 2 for me. So I'm not
Okay.
far off from you, but I love Chris Christopherson.
Hey, you know what? And we need this voice. This voice needs to be a part of the conversation. It can't just be
Wrong voices
One
need to
thought.
get heard too. Yep. Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Whistler he is a character that I feel like is like fully motivated by like whatever is right in front of him. Like I feel like he has no
Mhm.
opinions of his own until he like has to make a snap judgment about someone.
I love that. That's how I live my life.
Well, okay. I would say my dislike for Whistler comes from Blade One. I just feel like he's a little bit of an enabler of Blade's reclusiveness from society, which fair. He is half
Fair.
vampire. He has a thirst for human blood that he almost can't control. I get it. But I just feel like Whistler is always trying to keep people away from Blade. And in this movie, he was correct. He was correct about Skud. But I think in Blade One, he was wrong about Dr. Karen.
David, if you were in the Blade universe, you're the person who's like, Blade, let's just go hang out. Just come hang out. And then you guys go have lunch, and then everyone in the restaurant is dead. Like everyone gets murdered. And you're like, oh, I did. Okay, yep, I did forget this happens every time.
Well, if vampires attacked, then yes.
Yeah,
you know,
You're like,
then yes.
oh, yep. You know, I keep making the same mistake with Blade. I keep saying we gotta hang out, and then everyone dies. And then I'm like, you did it again.
So Winston doesn't believe Blade can be reformed. I think a nice lunch. I think a nice lunch with me at a Thai restaurant, and people have done this with me, and it's nice. Lunch with me is nice. I'm just gonna say that it turns some people's days around.
I believe in you. I believe that would work.
Thank you. But I mentioned Dr. Karen, who truly gave us a cure to vampirism, and does she even get mentioned in this movie at all?
No, not one area mentioned.
It makes my stomach upset. Anyway, we have this vampire cure. Blade gives it to Whistler, and he's good. One other thing about this movie, I guess it's more realistic, looking at this dreary daylight that we have today in LA, but like the daylight in Blade 2 reads as moonlight to me sometimes, and I have to sometimes they're like, oh, it's sunlight. I'm like, is that sunlight?
Yeah, because it is bright white instead of like golden.
Yeah.
Eastern European day. That's what that is.
That's true. Oh yeah, I guess we're still in
angles
in
and the sun and the way. Yeah, they got a different sun over there.
I don't want to tell Guillermo what to do. I'm just saying it was hard to read sometimes. We cure Whistler, and you think, great, this is gonna be our new team, Blade and his 2 little boys. But Winston Carter, producer Michael did some research on you. Apparently, your home was infiltrated by people in scuba suits. How did you handle that?
So the first thing I did was I called up my rental insurance and said, here's the deal. I have holes all over my roof, just all through my roof. And all those rafters I had, we gotta put up I installed a drop ceiling in my home to cover up all these rafters that people were swinging from. Cause it's just, I knew it was a hazard, but I liked the aesthetic. And now I'm both saving on energy savings, and also I'm not worrying about scuba suited ninja vampires sliding through my house. So that was honestly more of a talk with my insurance than a talk with anyone else. It's been mostly I have talked to a couple of general contractors. They keep asking me exactly what happened, and I keep saying, brother, let me tell you a tale. So
we'll keep us posted on that. this is one of my favorite action sequences in the movie. Is this little scuba? I was telling, we were talking about it before you guys hopped on the mic with producer Michael, and like, it's so unnecessary. Like, they're there to ask for Blade's help, but it's a great scene.
And it shows like how thoughtful they are about hunting Blade. Basically, like these suits are kind of impenetrable to the normal vampire, except for silver bullets, I guess, but to sunlight and
yeah.
And
also, did you guys notice it was a similar silhouette? I just kept thinking of Shape of Water and also that blue creature from Hellboy. Like it just seemed
Abe Sapien.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're very Abe Sapien. They have the same eyes too, like almost the exact same goggles.
And I'm like, man, Guillermo, he just loves this amphibious humanoid silhouette, I would say.
Yeah, I think I just love that it's just like, yeah, we're gonna fight in front of this giant music. I was gonna shoot a music video here later, so I have these lights set up. We're gonna fight in front of them. It's like so perfect. But also, who cares? Because it's fun. It's just fun. And you also, I think this is like the first, there had been like crazy CG thus far, but this was the first time where I saw Blade really moving in it. And like, I was like, this looks nuts. This just looks insane sometimes. But I don't mind it because it's supposed to look insane.
Oh yeah, where he like kind of looks tiny, where he like springs.
And he like leaps forward and you're like, why does he like look like a rubber kind of bouncy ball for a second? But it works.
It works. I like it. But these are two vampires that have come to ask for Blade's help. One of them is Nyssa, daughter of what did we call this person? Damaskinos.
Yeah.
Eli Damaskinos.
Eli. I'll call him Eli. And so they're basically, this is where we connect Team Blade with Team Vampire, that there is this Reaper strain that is terrifying the vampires. And this is such a banger of an idea for a sequel to Blade, of like, you know, this unbeatable enemy, the vampires, coming to him for help. I don't know. I'm into it.
Well, like also like the team trying to kill Blade now has to be on his side for a minute is like the sickest shit ever.
Oh yeah, Blood Pack.
It's perfect. It's perfect. The Blood Pack. The Blood Pack is like the best idea ever.
Them walking in a line in all leather, looking like a bunch of badasses. Why do people watch anything else? Why do you watch Gilmore Girls when you have this? I'll just like that.
Do I need a chainmail shirt? I think I do, is what I landed on. I think that's the look.
It's a look. If you don't have it, get it.
Yeah.
Shelby Quinn, any members of the Blood Pack stand out for you? I'm sorry, I did not do a good job of keeping track of who their names. So
I mean, definitely Reinhardt. I think he's by far the coolest part of the movie, Ron Perlman's character.
Oh, yep.
And then I also like Snowman, who was like second to Blade with the actual sword play. I thought like his Snowman. Action sequences were just so cool. He had my favorite kill of the whole movie.
Which one?
It's in the club scene with the Reapers, and he pins a Reaper to the wall with his blade, and the Reaper just like runs through the blade backwards on the wall like the Exorcist, and it just carves through all of his organs.
Oh, I remember. Oh, yeah, so gnarly. Winston Carter, any Blood Pack member stand up for you?
I mean, Snowman's rules because it's Donnie Yen who's like, like the best. He doesn't get enough talking in this movie for me. He's like, I think silent, right? Is he silent the entire movie?
According to Wikipedia, he's listed as the mute member.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. It'd be weird if all of a sudden he had a long monologue.
Right.
But he rules. He rules. And yes, Reinhardt rules. I'm not anti-team Reinhardt. I want to be very clear here. Reinhardt rules. Reinhardt rules. And
I mean, we believe that.
I also I had a very distinct like memory while watching this of like, oh, I think I had an enormous crush on Nyssa as when this movie first came out. I'm like, I think I had a real big crush on, like I had these strong memories of being like, oh yeah, she's the cutest girl alive. She's a vampire. Defining the rest of my life essentially. So
yeah, you're currently
dating a vampire. Yes.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I didn't want to put you on the spot, but you brought it up.
It's okay. We're out in the open. We're living our lives.
Well, talk to me about Nyssa. She could be important later in this podcast. What do we like about her? Are we digging her? What's her whole deal?
I think she's a really interesting character who's played, unfortunately, like, pretty flatly throughout the movie. Like I was like, oh, this is like a cool idea. And she's Eli's daughter, right? Is that correct? Or did we not know this yet? Am I ruining? If you're listening to this, I assume. Okay. Yes, we do know that. So I do think like she's really like, what an interesting idea of like this, like you said, vampire princess running around. She's got kind of a thing going on with Blade, right? Like there's some chemistry there, but it never feels like enough. And to your point, versus Dr. Karen from the first movie, it's like nothing by comparison. Like it's just like feels flat and mundane. But I like the character, and she's most importantly to whatever 12-year-old me or however old, two cool little like dots above. Blade is the first movie I ever saw that has a lot of eyebrow work. Like I don't remember, but Frost in the first one had like a cut through his eyebrow, like a shaved in part, and now in this they got some eyebrow dots going on. They know what's up.
Really keeps you focused on the eyes.
Yeah.
Keep your eyes up here.
Are those moles? What are these? Are these freckles? No, those are on purpose. What are these? Yeah.
I believe they were some like vampire royalty marking or something.
Oh, like you get a third one when you like, or they count down, and when you have none, you're on top.
Yeah, then you're in the Pure Blood Council or whatever.
Okay, yeah.
I like Nyssa. She is very interesting. Also, okay, sorry guys, but I do run a Marvel podcast. Nyssa is also the name of Ra's al Ghul's daughter in Batman. He had two daughters, Talia al Ghul and Nyssa al Ghul. Anyway, Nyssa's the one who didn't marry Batman. Anyway, Nyssa's interesting. She raises like an interesting idea where she kind of, it doesn't go anywhere, but like she has Blade like, why do you kill us? We just want to live. And it is interesting of, a pure blood vampire versus the vampires that feed and change humans, which those should be taken care of because that's bad. But like, if natural born vampires just want to like suck on donated blood away from me, go for it. And that's my hot take. It's a controversial hot take. Shelby Quinn,
my partner appreciates your hot take. Thank you so much.
Yes,
for both of us, thank you for your accepting nature. We're gonna send a fruit basket over to your house. And as a thank you.
Lovely.
Thank you. So.
No blood this time, please.
No blood? No blood?
Zero.
Do you know how hard it is to order one without blood? Do you have any idea?
I don't. Shelby Quinn, any thoughts on Nyssa and her Royal Highnessness?
Yeah, I mean, she definitely, to me, I mean, she is the hottest, but also least interesting member of the Blood Pact. Unfortunately, like, yeah, her whole motivation seems to be to convince Blade to join their team and then fall in love with him slowly, and doesn't have any cool like fighting skills. They set it up like she does, like, oh, and Nyssa's gonna be on the team and she's been training so hard and all this stuff, and like she mostly just gets trapped and fucked over like throughout the movie.
She's like a Nepo hire for this blood pact.
She's a Nepo baby.
It's only here because her fucking dad is our king. Ugh.
Yeah, I mean, it does kind of scream that a little bit.
Yeah. Nyssa, a character who is often trapped, and we can relate because we're about to be trapped in a break. We're going to take a break from Podcast 616, and when we come back, we'll talk more about Blade 2. There's so much to talk about. So keep it right here, or we'll bite you. So we'll be bite back. We'll be right back.
Hello, Brooks here with the Books with Brooks monthly book club podcast. Here's how Books with Brooks works. We read one book a month, and then we talk about it. Classics like Stephen King's The Shining, debut novels like We Are the Brennans by Tracy Lang, and tons of other compelling, life-changing stories, one book and 1 month at a time. So come read along with us, and then listen in.
Welcome everyone to Podcast 616, the official podcast of Earth 616. I am your host, Damon Royster, and I am inviting you to listen and subscribe to this Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast. On Podcast 616, we gather some of today's greatest comedians, writers, and actors to dive deep into all things Marvel, like comic book history and lore, all the interconnected superhero storylines, and of course, who's hot and who's not in the MCU. Honestly, why aren't you listening right now? You have the power to listen to Podcast 616. And as we always say, with great power comes even greater responsibility. Listen and subscribe to Podcast 616 wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey everyone, this is Don Mike Mendoza, the host of Producing While Asian. Join us in Season 2 for more conversations with actors, artists, producers, and more from Broadway, Hollywood, and beyond, every other Wednesday on the Press Play Podcast Network.
And we're back. Shelby Quinn, we found out in our research, you actually interned with Ron Perlman's character Reinhardt for a summer. Can you talk to us about your experience working with Reinhardt? What was that like?
Yeah, very specific coffee order. It has to be 107 degrees, frothy foam, but it can't be overly frothed. It has to be whole milk, not skim, not cream or half and half. Whole milk, frothy.
Wow. And did you nail it every time?
No, I got in so much trouble and so much blood. So much blood had to be taken from me.
Damn. I'm sorry. But did you like Reinhardt in this movie, though?
Yeah, love Reinhardt in this movie.
What came first? Did this come before Hellboy? Or is this like, it just feels like such a... I mean, was this what led to Hellboy? Like, why did Ron Perlman get this big of a part?
Well, he was in Kronos, which is also a vampire movie directed by Guillermo Del Toro. That is, I looked up the dates because I was like, when was Kronos in relation to Blade 2? And so it was like 6 years earlier. So he already had a working relationship with Guillermo Del Toro, which I guess progressed through the Hellboy franchise. But yeah, so wild that he's gotten these two iconic vampire movies directed by Del Toro.
Incredible.
Perlman's in every English Guillermo Del Toro movie, right? Is that right? I think so. I think he is. I think he has like a part in every single Guillermo Del Toro movie in English.
He might not be in Crimson Peak.
Is he in Shape of Water?
I think he is for like a split second. Like I think he'll even have like a little bit part.
Wow.
But they're buds, which I love.
I would hope so. He's so good in this movie. Like the whole Suicide Squad bomb in the head aspect is so fun. I will say I'm not a big fan of here's a bomb in the head. I knew that you would do this and it's not real. Well, I knew you knew that and now it is real. You know, like,
yeah.
I hate that. Like, I knew you knew I knew. The one-upsmanship is so. I feel like they should be saying more. Ha ha ha! Ron Perlman, I am Blade. But other than that, it's great. Like this movie has some of. It's been a while since I've seen a movie that had such good, end of Act 2 twists. Like the fact that Ron Perlman and truly, I don't even know this character's name. He's so sexy to me. I'm so sorry. I'm really into the skunk head. That's what I called him in my notes. The guy who had like the blonde hair and like I think he was the one in the chain metal shirt. He was with Ron Perlman. He was going to kill Whistler.
Yeah.
Man, what a bad situation I would find myself in with him. But anyway, the twists that they were going to kill Whistler, I thought that was really cool. That like they were like, we're still vampires. We still suck, literally and figuratively. So I love that part. And also the Blood Pack member we did not talk about, the guy with the big hammer, mouth tattoo guy, that he gets bit and is turning into a Reaper.
Yeah.
And then his cute little, I guess, girlfriend or sister vampire, whatever the relationship is, she sacrifices herself. Suicide. Ugh. Get out of here.
And like the most dramatic way, removing a fucking manhole cover to like blast them with daylight.
It's like, let's just both be eradicated, I guess. I really like that about this movie, that it is kind of that, like, one by one, you're wondering, like, is everyone going to get killed in this movie? Like, is the whole team going to get taken out? It's like, really, I love those kinds of movies.
Yeah. Because it does make the stakes feel so much higher too, like, because you are invested in the team, you're invested in their well-being, you want them to succeed in their primary mission.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And then sorry, I'm just looking over my notes. I wrote a lot of notes about that. The first club scene where, like, they're walking in that power shot and they're playing that Mos Def song, which is such a great song.
Yeah.
And they go to the techno club where I would say everything, it seems to me to be a vampire in this era, seems you have to be a little bit queer coded. Just a lot of leather and a lot of, like, apparatuses on your body that, do we need them? And there's one shot I really love in that club scene where, like, Blade's, like, standing on the stage and everyone's dancing, and there's this woman doing, like, a full Fosse routine who, like, crosses in front of him on the stage, and she's, like, doing her own performance, and I love her. Special shout out to that woman doing some arm work around Blade.
Yeah, this was definitely, all of those extras are not in sync at all during that dance scene. Like, you could tell on set there was no music playing whatsoever. Like,
None. So, I mean, this is hard because this is none of our first watch of Blade 2, but were either of you, if you can remember, were you suspicious that Whistler might be, like, double dealing? Because they try to, like, paint that suspicion on him. Or am I misreading it?
yeah. I mean, I don't know. It does seem like, because here it's kind of like a red herring that it's like he actually went to track down a Reaper, but, like, it does seem like in that moment, like, oh yeah, he abandons the mission to self-serve.
Yeah. And most of that is coming from the Scudster. Skud. Is this where Skud, like, gets attacked in the van and has to, like, turn the UV lights on? That was cool. I'm sorry, it really just bums me out to say Skud.
Because you hate chemical warfare and you hate Scud missiles. Is that fair? Valid.
On the nose.
Good reason.
On the nose, Winston.
Yeah, great reason to say that word.
Hundo P. Really not into chemical warfare.
Now I know you're acting, because we know that you love chemical warfare.
Wow, this is why Winston came on the podcast, to blow up my spot.
I'm selling truths. All right, I'm coming on here. I got a lot of things I got to say about what's going on in and out of the White House. I'm so sorry.
Wow, this is the real Planeteer. Go cry to Captain Planet. Okay, I'm trying to make some money.
Also, ask a question about the club. Do they just party all day until it's the next night, or do they just party at night and then, like, have to tap out? Because it seems like none of them are ready to leave, and it's like an hour till daylight.
I think Winston has the answer.
Imagine that they party, like, because they live so long that for us, like, if we're out, like, we pull an all-nighter, right? That's like 1/10,000th of your life. But if you live for 10,000 years, then you could go, an all-nighter is a year straight. So in my mind, when vampires go hard, they're going for, like, months of, like, partying.
I could buy that. I think that fits in with what I was thinking. I think, like, this is just with Blade on the loose. This is what they have to do. They have to do, indoor partying. It's like sheltering in place.
Yeah. This is their version of, like, a community watch group. This is like, as long as we can all see each other, he can't get us.
Right. Bring your humans to the club and just feast here.
It's a lot. Every party is a lock-in when you're a vampire, and that's kind of fun, right?
Right. I want to give space for Demeskinos. Also, he was fully giving me, with his little familiar, the little blonde man, I was getting Mr. Burns and Mr. Smithers.
Absolutely.
Was anyone else?
Yeah. They 100% have, like, a weird old man, young twink relationship.
Very much that. And I was like, okay. More power to him.
Did write down how much I love a wet vampire, like, just like a, like, kind of consistently wet skinned vampire, and how fun that is, and gross. That's all.
Yes. Well, speaking of gross, now is the part where we investigate the Reapers, and I like that this movie is very active to me, and I think that's why I like it a little bit more than the first one, because like where the first one was just kind of like going over the lore and the origin, this movie is actually there's a mission, and like I just was so happy that they were actively trying to solve, where do these Reapers come from? Why can they do what they do? Even though we got that gross autopsy scene, which again, not for Damon's. Not for Damon's. No. I did not need all that. But I love that scene. Also, shout out to the Powerpuff Girls. A lot of shots of the Powerpuff Girls on TV. I was like, I love it. But they find out like the only way to defeat them is with daylight or with their UV lights. Winston Carter, since you are the resident Whistler fan, do you feel that Whistler was purposely cock-blocking Blade and Nyssa? And why do you think he did that?
I wouldn't say purposely as much as built into his being. I think Whistler is a walk. If you have someone who's that grumpy all the time, like, you ever been around like an ornery old man and then tried to hit on someone? And you're like, this doesn't work. This dude's just farting into his recliner all the time, and it's really taking down the sexiness level. And that's hard because they're vampires. They are, as you've already talked about, super sexy all the time.
So sexy, but also so old. So
I did not think it was on purpose as much as it was just in his nature. All
right. That's your boy from henceforth.
Yeah.
You have to answer for all Whistler.
I know. I got to answer for Whistler, for Mount Whistler. I have to answer for everything.
People's whistling.
Yeah. Just anybody who whistles past tense, I have to talk about. Yeah. Cool.
All right. So we're in the sewers. We've got this, light bomb. Blade's like, we're going to attack him at day. And the vampires are like, at day? I'll be beguiled. Daylight. Woo! They clutching their pearls. They can't even believe it. Like a daylight.
They have the technology from these scuba suits to block out daylight. I was like, make more of these scuba suits.
Thank you. I would agree. But also, if the plan is to launch light bomb, again, I love this movie, but I'm just pointing out, if the plan is to release like these light grenades, couldn't you do it at night? Why wouldn't you do it? I guess to catch them by surprise?
I guess so they can also shoot up the place and get those like very precise streams of daylight to just accurately take out one by one Reaper.
Yeah. And this is where I for those of you who listen to the Blade One podcast, I pointed out how some things from my favorite TV show, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, seem to have been stolen from Blade. Did y'all watch at least the last season of Buffy, season 7?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't watched it since high school, but yeah.
Don't you remember the very last episode when Spike, all that light came out of his necklace and killed all these super vampires?
Yeah.
Didn't that look an awful lot like Blade 2?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, especially those grenades, like the way that they stream out light.
Now, I'm so sorry to take us here, but I think Joss Whedon's a thief, because Blade 2 came out the summer of 2002, and the Buffy finale came out the spring of 2003. So he could have very much watched Blade 2 and been like, that looks cool, and then just did it for the finale. And I don't know how I feel now.
I mean, it's not the most egregious thing that
No, but I guess I agree. But I feel like his only saving grace was that he did Buffy. But now it's like, oh, and he stole? I guess what I'm saying is like the only good thing I could say about him is now called into question. There's nothing left. Anyway, we grow, we learn, we change. Okay. The third act. I will say the third act of this movie kind of loses me, especially after the big explosion in the sewer. And then we come to find out Mr. Burns, Damaskinos, was just behind the whole thing. Mm-hmm. He made the Reapers. Winston Carter, you were a subscriber of Damaskinos' YouTube page for a long time. Mm-hmm. How did you deal with his cancellation? How did you deal with that as a fan?
The thing that really what I learned is like, as much as I loved his content and felt like he was a part of my life, it's really the community that was getting me through. So the community really, we all came together for each other, and we said, listen, we can get through, as long as we have each other, we can get through it. So I've made some lifelong friends. It's how I got my vampire girlfriend. It's how I've lived my entire, it's like, so I still have those relationships. Just because of Damaskinos did some things that did hurt me personally doesn't mean that I have to give up everything. Does that, I'm sorry, it's difficult for me to talk about, but
no,
yeah,
it's okay. This is great fodder for the podcast, so I'm satisfied.
It's also important to note that Winston does have an inner lip tattoo. Mark him as a follower of Damaskinos.
Yeah. It just says wet vamp on my inner lip. Sorry.
Wet vamp.
Yeah.
Okay, Shelby Quinn, talk to me about that reveal. The outing of Skud. Could you believe a character named Skud was a betrayer?
You know, as my roommate, I do have to defend him a little bit. It's hard for a familiar. You have to really do your best to please your one true master. Is that how
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
okay, earnest question. When do you think, was Skud always working with Damaskinos, or did it happen? Because like he had this whole backstory where like he lifted his shirt and he's like, oh, I was getting my guts torn out by two vampire women. Like, was that part of the plan, or like was he actually saved by Blade and then still turned over to the dark side, the vampire side?
I think it was a long con all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I mean, his I feel like this was discussed on the last Blade podcast. Sorry to keep talking about Blade 1, but also this is a sequel. What do you want from me?
Yeah.
But we were talking about like, whether or not you would be a familiar to the vampires. Like, could you as a human do that? And Skud, to his credit, does have a good point of like, well, they're making these super vampires that could soon be able to be daywalkers, so might as well be on their side now. And I guess that works if you don't believe in Blade, which is crazy to think that Blade's not going to get this shit done. But I don't know. Would either of you work for the vampires? Would you be a familiar? I mean, maybe Winston, maybe you already are.
No, listen, hey, don't presume things about my relationship. All right, please don't. Fair. No, we're just a normal boyfriend and girlfriend, except she'll live forever and I will die at like 65. So it's just a normal thing. I would never be a familiar. I don't think I have it in me. It feels horrible, right? It's the worst of both worlds.
You have to lie to everyone.
That's Shelby's issues with everything are, when do you sleep?
When do you rest? I guess you just don't. Honestly, you just don't do it. Okay, fair. Checks out for you both.
Would you?
Would I? Never.
Okay.
I would sooner die than work with the undead. Yuck. They don't even breathe. Name of the game fight. Oh my gosh, that's the name of the game. This fucking song, this needle drop. I was not prepared for that song. I feel like, did either of you play SSX 3 or SSX Tricky, the video game, the snowboarding video game?
Absolutely.
I feel like that was a song that you could play while you snowboarded, and it's so goofy to me that like it's in this intense rated R action movie. But yeah, the end of this movie is just kind of like, we do it, we get through it. We find out that Nomak is actually the child of Damaskinos, and he's like, I'm coming for revenge. He's the last Reaper left, and I really feel for Nomak. Shelby Quinn, you actually did a piece for Vanity Fair where you interviewed Nomak. Can you talk to me about what that was like interacting with him?
Very hard to be objective. You feel for his story and his plight. I mean, it's hard to be an experiment by your parent, although aren't we all experiments by our parents in some way?
Ooh, say that, snaps.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, he is driven by vengeance, but maybe it's for the greater good ultimately. But it does seem like it has a lot of casualties that are pretty unnecessary.
Yeah. Yeah, it does seem like Damaskinos did put his entire race of vampires on the line. They could have been eradicated.
Yeah.
But what happens to the last thing I wrote in my notes was kids versus daddy. But so it's Nomak and Nyssa take on Damaskinos and they kill him, right? No, Nyssa, she dies, right?
Yeah, she wants to see the sun and then dusts away.
Yeah, she wants to die as a vampire, right? So then Blade has to like
Mhm.
carry her out. And there were two things that defined my like really like movies can end sad, and it was Seven and this for me.
Wow.
In my brain, those endings are equal in sadness.
For me, it was this an atonement. So I get you. I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
Damn. And then Nomak also dies, right? Does Blade kill Nomak?
Yeah. Or no, he
kills himself, right?
Yeah. He kind of kills himself, yeah, but he battles with Blade first.
Don't we all? And I'm so sorry to Skud, but he also gets blown the fuck up, correct?
Yeah.
Which leads me to, this is a first for podcast 616. We're about to play a fuck, marry, kill where all three characters died in the movie. We've never done this. I don't think, Michael, have we done this? I don't think so. This feels like a first. So we are transitioning into fuck, marry, kill. I would say let's pretend this is like just before all those characters died. This is like the sewer. We're at the sewer scene. So regardless of the fact that they all died, we're going to kill one of them. We're going to marry another one, and we're going to have a fuck with one. I will go first to give my guest time to think. I'm going to start saying this. Please don't let my answers influence yours. I'm not saying these are the correct answers. These are just my answers. Just want to spell that out for everybody. Okay. I wonder who I'll kill. Ho hum. Norman Reedus, Skud. No. You're not seeing the light of day, Skud. Put him back together because I'm gonna blow his ass up again. I hate him. He's gross. He looks disgusting. Shelby, I don't know how you lived with him. He is just the worst. Like, he looked like he was gonna betray Blade from the beginning. Also, I don't know, kind of sound like sometimes he was trying to do a black scent, and I just was like, no, not about it. Keep that shit in 2002. You're not an 8 Mile. I know you wanted to be, but you're in Blade 2. I hate it. Cancel him, blow him up, hate him. Scud's dead. My fuck. Okay, I'm gonna have to compromise my beliefs. I'm gonna fuck Nyssa. Nyssa's beautiful. And we're gonna do I just want her to attack me in her scuba suit with a sword and then take it from there. I feel like that would be a lovely little evening for us. So I'll fuck Nyssa. We'll fight, then fuck, as I assume straight couples do. And then Nomak will be my marry. I love sad men. And I think in this movie, there's no one sadder than Nomak and his unquenchable hunger. Will he eat me? Probably. But you know what? If you're not being consumed, I don't think you're in love. And that's those are my picks. Let us go to returning podcast guest Shelby Quinn. Please show Winston how we do it. Please provide your fuck, marry, kills.
Okay, so I'm also gonna kill Skud. Skud, even though we already have lived together, so in a sense we've had somewhat of a marital relationship in that sense. Just is the worst. I mean, I also just hate Skud. I feel like he has bad taste in music. Like, I feel like that's just a killable offense in itself.
Yes.
I hate that, like, we're supposed to believe that he is the technology master, which just seems out of line with everything else in his character. Yeah, so he's done. I would also blow him up with his own bomb if I could. And I would fuck Nomak for sure. I feel like Nomak has some crazy moves, would be great. I don't think long term would work out very well because I think even though I identify with some parts of his plight per my journalistic experience with him.
Of course.
I think there's just way too much bloodshed, pus shed, craziness in his wake that would just be, yeah, I don't know. Like I do feel like even though fucking, like, maybe his cum would be weird too, since all he eats are just like vampires and humans.
It'd be like that orange, like they even bleed weird, like that. Sorry, continue.
Yeah. But I don't know, maybe that could be kind of fun. It's just an experience. And then I would marry Nyssa, but we would have to really work on self-empowerment.
That'd be good. I think that would be good for you too.
Yeah.
You would be great for her. I'll say it that way.
I think so.
Excellent. All right. Winston Carter. Who are your picks, please?
Fully aware this is going to be an unpopular opinion.
Oh no.
I'm killing Nomak. I'm killing Nomak. And here's why.
Killing the victim. Okay.
What a waste. You know what? You do all of this bullshit only then to essentially kill yourself, which you could have just done at the beginning, saved everyone a bunch of time, saved a whole bunch of people, just a bunch of bullshit. You were dragging everything out. Get the fuck out of here. I don't have time for that. I don't have time for men who play games. And Nomak is the ultimate game player. All right.
Yeah. Yes. Of course. My husband. Yes.
I'm a fuck Skud. Here's the deal. He's bad news.
I'm sorry.
And we all know it.
Yeah.
Bad news can be good for one night, though. Bad news can be a whole bunch of fun in limited quantities. Also, as Shelby mentioned, it's the tech master, which means he knows his way around to some devices. It could be a little bit of fun. We've all seen that scuzzy, like deserty, weird swamp guy and been like, one night with him could be a fun. It's not forever, but I think for one night, a good time.
I mean, have I had a Skud? Yes. Will I have a Skud again? Probably. So
there you go. See? And then I'm going to marry Nyssa. And it's going to be tragic. Because here's the deal. I can't keep up. She's swinging from rafters. What am I doing? Just hanging out. So I know it's doomed from the start. And as someone who's already dating one vampire, as I move into marrying, I know what I'm getting into, and it's not going to be great. But she's beautiful, and she's lovely, and she's broken and needs someone to help her back on her feet. And if I'm not the dude to help get back on their feet, and then they leave for greener pastures, I don't know what I am. That's what I am made for.
Plus, you're dying at 65.
Yeah, I'm dying at 65. So really, she's only going to get 25 years of me. That's a blip. That's one long party to a vampire. So
the blip for her.
Yeah.
So you see yourself more as like a transition boyfriend than anything.
Yeah. Oh, I'm a rebound, and I'm aware. I'm a rebound for Blade. Is who I am.
I was gonna. So she goes Blade, then you, and then
yeah. I'm like the nice guy where friends are like, really? And I'm like, I'm good for 25 years. That's who I am.
Incredible. Thank you both so much. That was Fuck, Marry, Kill, and I think honestly one of our better ones. And that is the movie Blade 2. I think a classic. I do think this one often gets overshadowed because I think it was the same year as X2 that came out, and we forget about this one, but it's just as good. The sequel, it was like X2, Spider-Man 2, Blade 2, and I feel like Blade 2 is often at the bottom of people's list, but I think after watching it, we should put it more at the top because I think a lot of it still holds up. So that is the podcast. Shelby Quinn, are you online? Where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me at Tom Cruise of Finland on Instagram. Please follow me. If you're in LA, Winston and I have a redacted show on, I don't know if it's happening at the time of this podcast, but
well, this podcast will be dropping on October 9th.
Oh, perfect. So we have a show on the 11th.
Yep.
And then I'm also doing Bad Drag Race at Dynasty Typewriter. And we're doing Snatch Game next, horror Snatch Game. And you can see that on October 13th, Friday the 13th.
Wow. Okay. I'm probably gonna go to this. Okay.
Hell
Good
yeah.
to know. Good to know. Excellent. Thank you, Shelby. Winston Carter, where can we find you?
Yeah, at Winstonius on Instagram. You can follow my band Drac and the Swamp Rats. We'll be playing all over Southern California in October. We're a monster themed punk band, so that's very fun. Yeah, we'll be playing. I'll promote. Come see the Redacted show on the 11th, and come see Drac and the Swamp Rats at Harvard and Stone on October 27th. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah. For great Instagram names for both of you and great things to plug. This is great. This is Podcast 616. You can follow this podcast on Instagram at Podcast616P3. That P3 stands for Press Play Podcast, our podcasting network that allows us to talk about all the Blade movies we want, all three. Producer Michael, if you want to hop on the mic real quick, could you tell us what letter grade you would give this podcast episode?
I'll give you guys an A++.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Michael, did we sway? So before, Michael said he preferred Blade 1 to Blade 2. Did this conversation push Blade 2 a little bit more in the first spot?
Yeah,
Or are
no,
you still-
I like it. I like it a little bit more just from your guys' insight, but Blade 1 is still like a classic to me. This one,
Yeah.
maybe not so much, but first one, yeah.
All right. And you know what? You can't knock the classics. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Shelby. Thank you, Winston. Thank you, Blade. We'll be back next week to talk about Blade Trinity. If you, I don't want to do it. Do any of you want to sub it?
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
I've been
Mm-mm.
having such a nice time, but all good things must come to an end. But keep it right here. Podcast 616 will be back with more scary superhero movies for you. But until that time, please remember that with great power comes even greater responsibility.